KUNGULIAA Puranam. Tirukadavur was and still is one of the most fertile places in the Kaveri basin. Kalaiyanar, a pious Brahmin, was living in Tirukadavur. கண்ணுதல் எம்பிரார்க்கு கமழ்ந்த குங்குலிய தூபம் சாலவே நிறைந்து விம்ம இடும் பணி தலை நின்றுள்ளார். He took it on himself to burn kunguliyam, a frankincense, in the shrine of Lord Shiva. The good Lord decided to show to the world that his devotee would continue to do the service even when his wealth vanished. In accordance with the divine will, poverty struck Kalaiyanar, and all his properties disappeared one after another. Finally, he was left with nothing to feed his hungry children and relatives. They went without food for 2 days. His wife couldn't bear the sight anymore. She called Kalaiyanar aside, put on her neck a manjal charadu, a string with a piece of turmeric tied to it, and removed her thali charadu, a trinket of gold strung on a string, the most sacred of ornaments that a married woman wears. கோதில் மங்களநூல் தாலி கொடுத்து நெல் கொள்ளும் என்றார். She asked Kalaiyanar to sell the thali and bring some paddy home. Kalaiyanar went to the market, but as luck would have it, there came a guy who was selling frankincense. Kalaiyanar, who was all the time worrying about his not having kunguliyam for the day's puja, was pretty happy to exchange his wife's sacred thali for a bag of incense. He took it to the temple, and soon the fragrance from the burning incense filled the holy place. Satisfied with his unfailing service, Kalaiyanar slept off in the temple itself. But what happened to the hungry children and the worried wife? With the grace of Lord Shiva, his house was filled with heaps of paddy, gold, and all the wealth that one would wish for. Surprised wife was obviously wise to realize that this blissful change had been brought about by the ever-compassionate Lord. She hastened to cook food for her great husband. Tham perum kanavanarku thiru amudu samaikka saarndar. Meanwhile, Kalaiyanar woke up and heard the divine voice bidding him to go home and put an end to his hunger with a food that's sweeter than milk. Palin in adisil undu paruvaral oliga. Kalaiyanar and his family lived happily thereafter, with Kalaiyanar continuing his service of burning kunguliyam at the temple and feeding the Sivanadiyas with food that had taste and variety. Sekular then comes out with the second part of the service of Kalaiyanar. Tiruppanandal was a village not very far from Tirukadavur. The linga is the form in which Shiva is normally worshipped in a temple. It so happened that the linga in Shiva temple of Tiruppanandal got tilted to one side. All the attempts of the king, his men, and his elephants to straighten the linga proved futile. They all got tired and were lying down. Kalaiyanar heard of this episode, rushed to the spot, and wished that he should also get this opportunity to try and get tired. Yanum ingu ilaiputru eikkum idu pera vendum. He promptly took the rope that had been wound around the linga tirumeni, the sacred body form of the Lord, and put the loop around his neck. He started pulling the loop that was straining his neck. How long could the merciful Lord bear such a suffering of his single-minded devotee? The linga got straightened. ஒண்ணுமோ கலையனார்த்தம் ஒருப்பாடு கண்டபோதே அண்ணலார் நேரே நின்றார். And the immortals in the heaven roared with delight. The king and his men thanked Kalaiyanar profusely with palms joined. Kalaiyanar returned home to Tirukadavur. It was then that he got the rare opportunity of hosting Thirugnana Sambandar and Thirunavukarasar together in his house. The devoted service of Kalaiyanar continued till he reached the lotus feet of his Lord Shiva.